Strong Dads wants to thank 4Speed on 50 for sponsoring today's show. If you like classic cars, great food, and a taste of Americana, you have to visit 4Speed on 50's Diner, located on Route 50 in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Stop in today for a meal and an experience you won't soon forget at 4Speed on 50's Diner. Welcome to Strong Dads. This is Merle Hutchinson bringing you another great show. Our man Carl is out this week, I think on a little vacation, so I'm going to take it up on my own. So, hey, I want to thank you guys for checking in and listening in to our show. We just also want to thank all of you, really, for sharing shows and continuing to give us those thumbs up. Greatly appreciate that. You know, somebody brought something up to me. A buddy of mine brought something up. He goes, you know, you thank your sponsors all the time, but you guys don't thank God very often. I was like, you know what? I never really even thought about that, which is really a shame because we pray sometimes on the show and we do a lot of thank yous. But just the whole idea that we have this platform, that we have the experiences that we have, and we have the people in our life that brought us to know God. And then we ultimately have God, the Creator, who gives us our heart, gives us the desires of our heart. And so, yeah, I thank him for bringing that to my attention, that I just need to be better about just being thankful to God. You know, I say my prayers every day and every night, and I always start with a thank you, but it's more out of I'll just say a repetition, probably a level of emptiness, if I just have to be honest. And probably if you have to be honest, it might be the same for you, that you just say, well, thank you for this meal, and thank you for this, and thank you for that. But the whole idea of just actually giving thanks for what the Creator has given us, and loves us and forgives us and shows us grace. And so we just want to say thank you to the good Lord. With that being said, we do want to thank our sponsors. We want to thank Quality Auto Mart, Casey's Outdoor Solutions, and 4Speed on 50 for sponsoring the Strong Dad show. So we want to thank you guys for that. Continue to support the work that they do, and they continue to support our communities. That's pretty awesome. All right, so I'm going to get right into our subject. So here we are as I'm recording this. It is the first part of October, and we are less than a month away from election time. And this has been on my mind. I usually don't go political. I'm not going to go political today, although some of you may take it that way, but that's not the direction I'm going to go. In fact, I'm going to try to go anti-political. The topic of abortion seems to be a big topic in this particular election, and which the reason why I'm not taking it political is because it simply is not a political topic. It is a moral topic, and it's not political. And it's no different than slavery. Slavery was not. It was turned into a political topic, but it's a moral issue. It's no different than the prisoners, the Jews being prisoners during the Holocaust. You know, that may have seemed like a political Nazi thing, but that was a moral issue. And I think what we're really doing here is we're sort of chastising the people because the whole body has to choose a side on party affiliation in order to get their candidate to be elected or whatever. And so the morals sort of just fall to the side. Well, you know, I don't really believe in that, but I have to support this particular person, and so I'm going to go with it. And, you know, the shame of it is I don't think God really cares that much about your politics. I think he cares a lot more about our morals and how we are treating his creation and treating others. And in this particular case, treating life that he gives us. He's the creator of life. So I have a dream, actually. That sounded a little bit like Martin Luther, didn't it? I do have a dream. I've dreamt this for a number of years because I've had the opportunity to tour multiple times now the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C., and I'm always blown away at the quietness in there. Certainly not celebratory in any way. the humbleness, even tears that I've seen in there. When you see the piles of shoes of former prisoners, when you see the bunks that they stayed in, and you read about the conditions that those people lived in as they were prisoners, and you see that and you think, this museum is an absolute necessity. Again, not as a celebration of anything, but as a memorial so that we remember we don't ever want to do this again. And we have to keep these sort of memories sharp in our mind, because as humans, we can fall to our pagan, selfish side. That is part of us pleasing our flesh. Whatever I can do in the moment to get what I want now. And if I don't understand that, I really don't understand the whole idea of sin. Sin is just brought in to my body because I desire stuff for self. And we are all guilty of that. And so, we see that with the Holocaust Museum. We see it with lots of things with slavery. We don't celebrate slavery with whether it's a statue or whether it's a museum or some exhibit. It's there to remind us, please don't ever go back there again. And so one of my dreams is that someday we will see a museum of sorts that is to the entire condition of abortion, the position of abortion, the absolute travesty that we have taken part in. Even if I say I am pro-life, but I've probably been apathetic, lazy, even turned away because, well, it's not mine. I think of the people in the North back in the days of slavery, how it was probably somewhat easier for them to just turn a blind eye because it wasn't happening in my neighborhood, so to speak. And so the same thing here is like, well, it's not really my issue. And so I almost create more of a sin of omission where I just turn away and I act like it doesn't exist. And I think I have to realize, and I think all of us need to realize, the blood's on our hands. And so when I hear the people talk about, my body, my right, and all of that, I want to talk for a second about exactly how Satan works. My body, my right is exactly how Satan works with us. I should be able to do what I want, as if freedom means my choice for everything versus freedom to live in a way that enables and protects and builds culture, community, society. And so that's a freedom within the society, not a freedom that I get to do whatever I want, especially at the expense of another person. And what more expense could you have than the expense of a life? So I'm talking from a Christian perspective, and I'm really not here to argue with anyone. If you don't like the message or whatever, you feel free to turn it off. I just know that this has been on my mind, and I keep hearing all about this in this election talk. And I think, it's just it's an eye-opener that we really have to look at how we have tried to justify and rationalize the probably the greatest atrocity of sacrificing human life. And this is going to step on people's toes, but for the greatest percentage, the greatest part out of convenience and comfort. And please I don't take that wrong. Like, listen, I'm on the board of a pregnancy care center, and I know the amount of trauma that comes with these ladies. And so it's not a matter of just pointing finger, because I'm actually going to come around and this is a man subject as much as it is a woman subject. But the idea here that we do it because this baby is, I'm not prepared. I don't have the finances. It's not convenient. It's going to alter my pathway in life. It wasn't the pathway that I was choosing. And so right away I'm thinking about it from my perspective. It is about me, okay? And this is that selfish side of us. I have fallen to it. Birth control, I have fallen to that whole idea like, well, I'm not ready to do that. And so we buy into these things that it's got to work for me. And so as a country, we have tried to rationalize the idea that it's okay. It's like rationalizing the idea. I could rationalize the idea for slavery all day long. Well, I mean, without this, we don't have these plantations, which means you don't have these crops, which means you don't have these products. So you better go ahead and support the slavery thing. Otherwise, we all pay. And so it wouldn't take long to convince somebody that they can either turn a blind eye or even support it. So the same types of things happen around this whole abortion issue. And there's going to be a day of reckoning for it. And I think as a country, there's going to be a day of reckoning. And I don't think God turns a blind eye to us on that, especially when we knew what his word said. We knew the preciousness of life. Psalm 139, 13 through 6 is oftentimes read and quoted as, for you formed my inner parts. You wove me in the womb. I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works, and that my soul knows very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in secret and intricately woven into the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed substance, and in your book were all written, the days that were formed for me, when as yet there was none of them. And so, there are so many different references to children being a gift from God, children being a blessing. Children are the next generation, right? So you have those who have passed, and you have the future. And it's us living now that is the connection. And the only way you have a future is if what we do today is going to either take away from or add to the future, no different than what the people who went before us did. And aren't we lucky and thankful that they were not as quick to jump to the process or use of abortion? So, guys, I want to talk about some of the things, working in a pregnancy care center and being part of that board, some of the things that I will tell you that we get to experience there. Obviously, I won't talk about individual cases or anything like that. But let's just talk about the sin part, okay? Sometimes I think we think that something is sin because somebody said so. And really, whether somebody said so or not is really probably not the great deciding factor, because certain cultures can say some things that are sinful and some are not. But here's how you really kind of get what sin is. Sin is when it naturally hurts God's creation. It naturally hurts it. I really come to recognize this when we talk about divorce and families. Linda and I do marriage and family coaching, and you'll get all kinds of rationalizations for divorce, and you'll get this whole idea that the kids will live through it, they'll survive. Many kids have survived through it. And here's what I'll tell you: yes to all of that, but the whole idea is you don't have to tell a kid to cry and get upset when they hear that mommy and daddy are divorcing. It rips them to shreds naturally, right? And so you don't have to tell your spouse that they should get upset because they just found out that you were having an affair on them. It rips them apart naturally. And so it's no different. I mean, somebody steals something of yours. You don't have to tell them you should be mad right now because somebody just stole your money or your car. You don't have to tell them. It rips them apart. And so just the whole idea of any time we have something that hurts people, that is the breaking in of that sin. That's what it's about, right? And so we don't really need a book to say, well, here, this is sinful and this is not. So let me take that whole thought process and let me run it into abortion. And I hear people say, well, it's my right, it's my choice. I will tell you the number of women that I've run into that I get to talk with, whether it's in counseling session or whether it's just because I've met them through our care center. And there is great grieving and hurt, questioning, trauma that they still carry. And this can be years later This abortion happened when they were in their early 20s or teens even, and they're now 35, 45 years old, and they're still carrying the burden of the guilt of the what if, and they have imaginations of what would have this person been, and it grieves them. And so I don't have to tell them that this was a wrong or bad thing. It tears them apart. And so for that reason, guys, I don't need to go to a whole lot of political debates to hear whether somebody thinks it's right or wrong. It hurts people. And so what I'll say to that is stop the silly arguments. It's not right. It's not good. It hurts people. All right. We talk about it being murder, and I don't think anybody approaches abortion who's thinking about it as I'm going to murder someone. But it's still the death of a person, and it's a sacrificial death because you're putting the value of one person's life over another. And the one who ends up losing their life has no say in the matter, right? They have no say in the matter. When I think of sacrificial, I think of a guy who is, a bunch of military guys are out, they're in a battle, and all of a sudden a hand grenade comes flying into the middle of this group of guys, and one guy just makes that quick, rapid decision to dive on the grenade and sacrifice himself for the life of all the other guys. And, that's heroic. But that was a choice as well. And that makes it heroic. I think of Christ, who laid on the greatest, biggest grenade of all, the one that makes up all of our sin, and he made a choice to do that. And it covered all of us. It saved all of us. That's sacrificial. When I think of an abortion, there's no choice there on the kid's part. There's nothing, and that kid just comes for the sake of saving the person who's going to actually carry it out, right? That's like Jesus saving himself and letting all of us perish because it was not convenient for him. Like, you got to understand, this is why this hurts people. So I want to be careful here, and this is not about guilt and making people feel guilty or anything, because we've all got blood on the hands here, guys. It's just that simple. And I'm talking to strong dads here, and it's a day of reckoning that I think we should embrace it. We should admit it. We should own it. As Jocko Willink would say, we need to own it and stop making excuses for it. Let me go off a bit here on the men. We have looked at this as a women's rights issue. And, well, I could argue that, yes, you're right. I will tell you that I believe it's as much of a man's responsibility issue that we are failing in. It takes two to tango, right? And so, yes, we see these ladies having these abortions. I want to know where all the men are. I want to know where the men are who either didn't step up to plate and say, hey, no matter what, I'll take care of the child. No matter what, I'll take care of you. All right, I'll be the caretaker, the protector, and the provider of this child and of you. And so I think that this is as much of a man problem. All right, there are women, of course, who just have flat out abused it and almost embraced the abuse. But I'll say there's every bit as many men involved in the darkness of this. So where does all of this go? Well, we have a cultural problem. We have a cultural problem that we have normalized sin to the point where we can alleviate the pain. It's like I can continue to say that what I'm doing is okay, and eventually I get convinced that it's okay, even though it is causing great damage. Everybody's doing it. And so we have normalized so many different sins. And in this particular case, our culture has normalized it to the point where it's even now celebrated. We literally are celebrating when we pass laws and legislation that protects the right to the abortion. I just got, that's like protecting the right to slavery. That's like protecting, the right to keeping the prisoners in the Holocaust. Like, hey, I should get to do it because it would be better for me. So where has the culture gone off? We are all part of the selfish nature that Satan loves to work. And I can rationalize just about anything, and probably you guys out there listening can do just about the same thing. I can convince myself that whatever I did was the right thing to do, and then I walk away from it going, no reason to question it. That's what we've done with these cases, and especially this case here of abortion that we're talking about. As a culture, we have tried to erase the morality out of it because we didn't like the way it flavored our life. We didn't like the taste that it left in our mouth. So that idea is, I don't want to carry this guilt, so let's not make it a guilty factor. Guys, until we start to embrace what God's word says and we accept that God's word and the creation of life is special and is something that is unique, and every one of us is a unique gift from God. Until we do that and stop sitting on the throne of God and act like we can determine what's right and wrong, we're going to continue to do these sort of things and way, way worse. Okay, if that's even possible in our mind, way worse, because we will constantly strive to get our way. And that goes on the sexual front, that goes on identity stuff, that goes on money, greed. I mean, we will constantly justify so that I can relieve myself of the guilt to serve my own means. And so, again, I need to start to wrap things up, but I would just challenge you that as you walk through here and you think about this, look in the mirror and think about what you have done to either prevent it or turn a blind eye and almost supported it. I found myself on both sides. As I speak right now, I'm speaking against it, but way too many times I've done nothing. I've said nothing. Privately, I'd say, yeah, I'm not for abortion or whatever, but, what did I actually do? So let's start to hold all of us more accountable. Let's start to actually value life. When we talk about politics, let's start to actually choose candidates that are going to say, above everything else, life is that important. Some people will say we shouldn't vote on a single topic issue. And I'll tell you, where are you going to start? Life is probably a good place to start. And so let's let life and the protection of life be the number one thing that we stand for. I would also say it's time for us to start really praying for this country, for the hearts in this country, not to point fingers at everybody, because I think we're all carrying this. So the idea here that me pointing out what somebody else is or is not doing really just gets back into slinging mud. But instead, us really looking inside and saying, we all need to have our hearts changed a bit. So, guys, anyway, that's kind of my take on this whole issue. As I talked at from the beginning, wouldn't it be incredible and incredibly powerful if we had a museum that walked us through the process of even the pregnancy and then the full term life and then the abortion and just the travesty of that, of what that was and what could have been, right, with that life. And then let's also talk about the people who've been hurt. Like I told you before, the number of women that come into us that are still grieving. They're not happy and bragging about what happened. They usually realize, man, I was in a bad place in my life when all that was taking place. And here's the ultimate, the forgiveness that's available and the grace that can flow over all of us for this. God wants to see a repentant heart. He wants to see us turn towards him. So the idea that we would beat each other up over this, really, it minimizes God. And I don't think that that's our place. He's God and we're not. So let's maximize God and seek out his grace and his forgiveness. So anyway, guys, that's my take. We all need to step up to the plate, this abortion thing. I think it's worth studying deeply and actually seeing how we have fallen into convenience of selfishness and protecting our own ways. And it's happened at the expense of well over 50 million lives, and just in this country. So anyway, I hope this wasn't too dark of a show, but you know what? It's election time, and I don't know about you, but I'm sick and tired of some of these ads we're seeing. So maybe this was a little bit more thought-provoking. Again, I want to thank all of you guys out there for listening and viewing Strong Dads. I thank you for the support that we get. Looking forward to welcoming Carl back in the studio here in the next week or so. So guys, if there's anything that we can do to help you, if you are struggling with an issue or a marital concern of some sort, please reach out to us. You can get us at rocksolidfamilies.org, or you can call our office at 812-576-7625. Let's see. I think that's about all. All I need to do is I need to thank our sponsors. I want to thank Quality Auto Mart, Casey's Outdoor Solutions, and 4Speed on 50 Diner. That's all we got. Go out there and be a strong dad. Strong Dads wants to thank Quality Auto Mart and Service for being a proud sponsor of the Strong Dads podcast. Started in 1985 and going strong for all these years. Recently, Quality Auto Mart has transitioned from owners of Mark and Nancy Repke to longtime employee Fred and Lorraine Venus. For all your automotive needs and golf cart needs, check out Quality Auto Mart, located across from Indian Lakes on Highway 46 outside of Batesville, Indiana. Casey's is a premier garden center and gift shop located in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Casey's offers a wide selection of plants, landscaping materials, home and garden decor, and gifts for every occasion. Casey's is committed to providing exceptional service, a unique shopping experience, and value to every customer. Stop in and see what makes Casey's so unique. Located at 21481 State Line Road, Lawrenceburg, Indiana, or call 812-537-3800. Let Casey's help you add beauty to your home.